Hello, and welcome to the 10-Minute Counselor. Glad that you joined us. Today's a very important one, and one that I think our culture has so much anxiety, so much fear, and stress in their life. And I want to help you today through the Bible, because it is the Bible that will change our behavior, through the scriptures to help you overcome that fear, that anxiety that you may be dealing with right now. I think the first thing we need to do is come up with a definition of anxiety. And here's how I would define anxiety: taking on responsibility that's given to God. When a person takes on responsibility that only God should handle, carry, and deal with, you're going to become very anxious. You're going to become fearful. You're going to become stressful. Now, I have a theory that the more we become a secular culture, the more we push God out of our lives, the more anxiety we're going to have. Because we're going to be taking on things that we ought to allow God to take on. By the way, that's true with the government too. If we think that the government is going to take care of our anxiety, that we think somehow a government program or a government handout is going to take care of the stress, listen, the more you alleviate God from your life, the more anxiety, the more pressure, the more stress and fear that you have. So I actually love the definition. Taking on responsibility that should be given to God. You will always be an anxious person. Now, I hope you have your Bibles with you. I want you to turn to Luke chapter 8. Luke chapter 8 and verse 22. Now, this story is found in 3 of the Gospels. And in each one of the stories, there's a little different response that's recorded. So we have the full picture of what exactly happened. This is a storm that's happening on the Sea of Galilee to men in a ship that are very acquainted with the Sea of Galilee. They're fishermen and they've been on there many times, but they're scared. They're scared to death. There is great anxiety, stress, and fear in their life. But we pick up the story in verse 22 of Luke chapter 8. It says, "Now it came to pass on a certain day that he," that would be Jesus, "went into a ship with his disciples, and he said unto them, Let us go over onto the other side of the lake." Okay, so now this is going to be our first key in overcoming anxiety. You put your faith in God and His Word. You put your faith in God and His Word. Notice what Jesus said. Let us go over onto the other side of the lake. Number one, Jesus is God. So to obey Jesus is to obey God. To listen to the words of Christ is to obey God because Jesus is God. And then to have faith in it. He said, hey, we're going over to the other side of the lake. Now, he doesn't say what's going to happen from what shore they're on now to what shore is going to happen. He doesn't tell them about the storm, but he does tell them, let's get in the boat and go to the other side of the lake. You know what you need to do to overcome your anxiety? You need to put your faith in God and His Word. Listen to what happens. This is so exciting. He says, and they launched forth. But as they sailed, he fell asleep because he knows where they're going. And there came down a storm of wind on the lake, and they were filled with water and were in jeopardy. They were in great danger, so they thought. And they came to him and awoke him, saying, Master, Master, we perish. Then he arose and rebuked the wind and the raging of the water, and they ceased, and there was a calm. Now, look at verse 25. This is absolutely life-changing. And he said unto them, he's going to ask them a question, and I'm going to ask you the same thing. And he said unto them, where is your faith? He did not tell them, hey, don't you guys have any faith? No. The question is, where is your faith? Now, I'm going to tell you, they had a lot of faith in that ship, but their faith was in the storm. Their faith was in the danger that they thought that they were in. Instead of their faith being in Jesus Christ, God, and His Word. Now, I'm going to tell you, you will never overcome anxiety until you first of all put your faith in God and His Word. Where is your faith? So if you're under a lot of stress right now, if you're going through a lot of things right now and you just feel like, man, I am so anxious, I am so fearful, my first question to you is, where is your faith? You put your faith in God and His Word. That's F. Well, let's take the word fear, F-E-A-R. So let's go to E. And E is examine the fear. Now, some of you may have stress or fears or whatever when you're around a spider or you're in the heights or whatever, closed in places or whatever you might have. You know what you need to do, though? You need to examine your fear. The more you examine something, the more you know about something, the less fear you have about it. So I encourage you to examine the thing that in your life right now you think, oh, I'm all stressed out about. Well, maybe you don't know enough about it. The people of Israel 13 times walked around a city. For 6 days, they walked around it one time every day. On the seventh day, they walked around it 7 times for a total of 13 times. They weren't allowed to say anything, and they were just supposed to look at the walls of Jericho. Why? They examined their fear. They knew, first of all, we can't take those walls down. Only God can do this. Only God. And God had them walk around that city to examine the greatest, biggest obstacle in their life. Let me encourage you. Examine your fear. Is it really, when it compares to your God, you know that you can overcome it. I think we get so stressed out about stuff that we don't know about. The more knowledge you have about something, the more that you will be able to defend your faith in God with that item. Okay, so number 1, put your faith in God and His Word. E, examine the fear. Now, A is really important. A is attack your fear head on. I believe that this is an absolute key to overcoming stress, anxiety, or a fear in your life. You have to attack your fear head on. If you have a great stress or anxiety about something in your life, you got to go at it. You got to go at it with God beside you, and I will talk about that in just a minute. But you've got to attack your fear head on. That is exactly what Daniel's 3 friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, did in Daniel chapter 3. They will not bow down to the image. They stand before the most powerful person on planet Earth, King Nebuchadnezzar. Their doom is to be thrown in the fiery furnace. But listen to what they said in the presence of Nebuchadnezzar. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered, Daniel chapter 3, verse 16, and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, now listen to this, we are not careful, we're not full of care. We're not stressed out about this. We're not anxious about this. We are not careful to answer thee in this matter. Hey, you know what? We're attacking our fear head on. And we're telling you, we are not anxious about this. Oh, King Nebuchadnezzar, we know what we've got to do. And we're attacking our fear head on. We are not bowing down to that image. And Nebuchadnezzar, you do whatever you think you've got to do, but we are not full of care. We know what's right. We know what we've got to do, and we're attacking our fear head on. I'm telling you, people that are so bent out of shape because of their anxiety and their fear, you need to attack it head on with the power of God, and that leads us to R. F, put your faith in God and His Word. E, examine the fear. A, attack it head on, and R, request God for help. Ask God to help you. At what time I am afraid, I will trust in thee. Psalm 56, verse 3. But listen to Philippians 4:6. Be careful, be anxious for nothing, but in everything, by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known unto God. Can I tell you what to do right now with your fear? Put your faith in God and His Word. Examine the fear, attack it head on, and then ask God to help you. Ask the Lord, cry out to the Lord, and He will answer thee. Be careful. Don't be anxious about anything. Pray about everything. Fear thou not, for I am with thee. Be not dismayed, for I am thy God. I will strengthen thee, yea, I will help thee, yea, I will uphold thee with the right hand of thy righteousness. Isaiah 41:10. That's how you take faith and overcome fear, anxiety, and stress.